Coming up on We Talk News this week, the public comment period on the DEA's plan to reschedule cannabis to Schedule 3 is now open. We'll share the link to have your words heard. Plus, the hemp world reacts to Congress's late move adding an amendment to the proposal for the Farm Bill law of 2024. We talk with Kerry Hinkle for the US Hemp Roundtable. And New York City starts to raid warehouses and lock out the illegal cannabis storefronts in the Big Apple. Plus, could the state of New Hampshire join the other 5 New England states as adult use legal in June? We'll have the latest from the Live Free or Die state. Also in New England, Massachusetts regulators team up with the Health Department, Aggie regulators, and the Alcohol and Beverage Commission to issue a cease and desist to all package and liquor stores selling illegally infused THC beverages in their stores. And on the international scene, while Japan moves towards starting a medical program, Italy goes backward by turning CBD into a narcotic. And this week, 2 trade shows in the East for the cannabis business community. In New York, it's the 10th annual CWCB Expo at the Javits Center, and in Massachusetts, it's the Flower Expo in Greenfield, where a majority of cannabis dispensaries show up to do business in an outdoor fairground. All that and coast-to-coast cannabis news on We Talk News. Next!
Music Studio.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's We Talk News. I'm PCM founder Jimmy Young, filling in for the vacationing Alaina Pinto this week here in Massachusetts.
I'm Karen Black in Arizona, co-anchoring with Jimmy, while Alaina enjoys some time off. This is the beginning of a public comment period to the DEA on their potential move of cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act. The industry wants to hear from everyone with an opinion about this move that is being urged by the Biden administration. We're sharing the link for anyone to comment at regulations.gov/DEA-2024-0059-001. Here's a look at the image from the website. Just understand you have to have your comments in by July 22nd, 2024. This is a chance to tell your own cannabis story. Pro Cannabis Media is urging everyone who has a story about cannabis changing or saving your life when you use it responsibly as a plant medicine to share it with the DEA. Now, let's start our state-by-state, coast-to-coast coverage of cannabis news in Virginia with Joe Parsons, who was able to get an interview with the Chief Strategic Officer for Jushi Holdings, Trent Willebeck.
I'm Joe Parsons with the Virginia Cannabis Connection, and this is the Virginia Cannabis Report on We Talk News. With the 60-day public comment period counting down, Pro Cannabis Media has been dedicated to getting the industry reactions on all the latest historical cannabis news. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, there's no bigger company than Jushi Holdings. Jushi is the MSO parent company of Beyond Hello, a medical dispensary chain with 6 locations in the Commonwealth. With 35 locations from coast to coast and more on the way, they're one of the largest MSOs in the nation. Trent Willebeck, Chief Strategy Officer of Jushi Holdings, agreed to give his input to Pro Cannabis Media on all the latest cannabis news and how it affects one of its largest markets, Virginia.
Were you surprised by this news, especially of how quickly the process is moving forward?
Yeah, I think, look, it was a historic month of April. With a lot of work that had led up to it. And it's something that I feel like's been, quite frankly, a long time coming. As somebody that's been in the regulated cannabis industry since 2009. So it's been a really exciting process so far. It's kind of crossing the T's and dotting the I's now, but looking forward to getting that finalized here in the coming months and have cannabis officially off Schedule 1 narcotic and flipped over to a Schedule 3.
And do you think that this could possibly cripple the entire CBD industry on a national level?
it was never their intent to create a THC market through hemp. And so I think they're just going back and quite frankly cleaning up a mistake that they made. I mean, everybody calls it a loophole for a reason. Like it's a loophole. And so you get a couple lawyers making a statement and a couple people that do something. And there's a lot of followers thereafter. And so, excuse me, I think, going back and cleaning that up because the Farm Bill was meant for industrial hemp, whether that's, hempcrete or rope or material or fuel, or I mean, I can keep going down the line because, industrial hemp's a $7 trillion disruptor in my mind. And it was never supposed to be, cannabinoid focused or more frankly, THC focused. That's a state regulated program. That's a state regulated thing that needs to be and will continue to be regulated. So I just think they're closing quite frankly a mistake that they made 6 years ago now. So yeah, I'm a huge supporter of the amendments that were proposed around the Farm Bill.
I would like to thank Jushi Holdings and Trent Wolobeck for both his time and great input. Remember, you still have time to make your voice heard as well. Stay tuned to Pro Cannabis Media for all the latest updates, and count on me to keep trying to make a difference in the cannabis community for the Commonwealth and beyond. The full interview will be on my blog channel, Virginia Cannabis Connection. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Virginia Cannabis Report. From the Virginia Cannabis Connection and reporting for Weed Talk News, I'm Joe Parsons. Till next time, stay lifted.
Now, while the DEA is taking public comments on the proposed move to Schedule 3 for cannabis right now, that's not the only major change on the horizon for the cannabis sativa plant. The Farm Bill of 2024 that was passed by the House is looking to redefine the definition of hemp, which right now is defined as a cannabis plant measuring under 0.3% of THC in dry weight, the intoxicating cannabinoid, of course, that gets users high. Needless to say, the hemp industry is extremely upset because when the Farm Bill was passed in 2018 with that 0.3% definition, it allowed farmers and growers an opportunity to create a cash crop that featured so-called minor cannabinoids like CBD. 6 years later, we're still waiting for the FDA to set up regulations about the infusion of CBD in beverages and food items. Many now believe that the Farm Bill of 2018 mistakenly pseudo-legalized the cannabis plant. Now, you have states banning the synthetic Delta 8 THC, while others, like Texas, are allowing it to be sold in convenience stores and package stores, and of course gas stations too. Industry leaders and lawmakers all recognize that they misread human nature, that used a loophole in the law to create hot hemp, or hemp products that do get you high, even if the dry weight of the plant is under 0.3% of THC. Last week, I talked with Kerry Hinkle, the Director of Communication for the US Hemp Roundtable, about that 11th hour political tactic, kind of like slipping in a last-minute amendment by an Illinois Republican congressperson named Mary Miller. This used to be a lot simpler than it is right now, and the definition of hemp continues to evolve. Was it a surprise when Representative Miller decided to send that amendment through on, I think it was, late last week?
Yeah. And for additional context, I used to work in a CBD shop. I remember working in the shop when President Trump signed the Farm Bill into law in 2018. And that was when we just had, nasty oil that you put under your tongue. And, I'd tell my customers, it's like medicine, if it's supposed to, it works good, if it tastes bad, that old things that parents might have said when you were taking cough syrup or something. So I've seen it now to where, I can eat a Rice Krispie treat with, 50 milligrams of THC in it and feel good. Right. And I bought that at the gas station down the street. Right. So I've seen this industry evolve in a long time in the 6+ years I've been in it. On the Mary Miller amendment specifically, to kind of pull the curtains back on what we were doing at the Hemp Roundtable was we had heard rumors, we'd seen some draft text of a proposal to change the definition of hemp in the Farm Bill. So we started meeting with I believe there's 54 members of House Ag we started meeting with as many of those staffs and members of Congress as we could. And the issue when you're meeting in trafficking and rumors is it's just that, it's rumors. And so, staffers would be like, well, if you see the language, let us know. We're not really sure how this would go. And a lot of the conversation too was pessimism around the Farm Bill in general. There's a lot of things that have nothing to do with hemp or cannabis that it provides, pessimism for that Farm Bill to pass in general. And then, so we're meeting with these offices. We have a few suspects that we think they're going to introduce it. Give them that won't meet with us. It's like, okay, maybe they're going to be the offices was, but it really felt like a case of whack-a-mole where we got the rumor, we track down an office, and they say, no, we're not the ones doing it, and we'll try somebody else, right? Politico would come out with a report. We would meet with that office. Okay, find somebody else. So, and then what happened was it was about 6:00 on a Wednesday night. I remember I was playing in my YMCA men's basketball league. And we got the amendment, right? And what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to have the amendment filed 24 hours beforehand. But some offices told us that this wasn't going to be the case, and that's exactly what happened. It was 7 o'clock. We finally got the word that the amendment had been filed, past its deadline. They're Congress, they can do what they want. So we had to respond quickly. So we got our email campaign out, got an emergency full membership meeting the next morning, flew to DC, was in the committee meetings, meeting with staffers. And the issue again was that we were trying to defeat an amendment that wasn't introduced yet. And by the time it was introduced, we had 16 hours to react.
That entire interview was released last week on the procannabismedia.com website and our YouTube channel. With more on the Farm Bill of 2024, here's Washington, D.C. correspondent Andrew Behringer.
I'm Andrew Behringer, and this is the DC Area Report for We Talk News. The House Agriculture Committee has approved a controversial amendment to the 2024 Farm Bill that would effectively ban most consumable hemp products, including popular items like Delta 8, THC, and CBD products containing any measurable amount of THC. Now, this move has sparked a heated debate within the cannabis industry, with some supporting the amendment as a necessary fix to close a loophole in the 2018 Farm Bill that legalized hemp, while others argue that it is an overreach that won't address consumer safety concerns. Supporters of the amendment, including some multi-state cannabis operators, believe that hemp and cannabis should be regulated under the same federal framework to ensure a level playing field and prevent unregulated, potentially dangerous products from flooding the market. However, critics argue that the amendment goes too far and that the solution lies in comprehensive regulation of the entire plant rather than prohibition. The debate highlights the complex challenges faced by lawmakers and industry stakeholders in establishing a cohesive regulatory framework for the rapidly evolving cannabis and hemp sectors. While there is a broad consensus on the need for federal oversight, the specifics of how to achieve this goal remain contentious. Some excerpts predict that the Farm Bill in its current form may face opposition in the Senate, setting the stage for further negotiations and potential revisions. As the legislative process unfolds, the cannabis industry and consumers alike will be closely watching to see how this critical issue is ultimately resolved. Stay tuned. I'm Andrew Behringer reporting for We Talk News.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report for We Talk News. It was a mixed bag for Curaleaf this week. The D.C. Circuit Court ruled a wrongful termination suit brought by Gilbert, Arizona union organizer Anissa Keene lacked substantial evidence. However, 3 other violations from the National Labor Relations Board still stand. It's a bit tricky since 2 of the charges are related to Keene's dismissal. Notably, one of the judges expressed concern about the NLRB exercising jurisdiction over the dispensary dispute since cannabis is illegal at the federal level. 4 Arizonans are in the news. 3 of them formed a new law firm, and the 4th received a top cannabis honor. Partners Tom Dean, Julie Gunnigal, and John Udell founded the Full Spectrum Law Collective, which is, and I quote, dedicated to championing cannabis rights with unwavering commitment and expertise, end quote. The CEO of another Phoenix firm, Kim Prince of Proven Media, was named one of 2024's leading ladies of the cannabis industry by MG Magazine. Ms. Prince is the only Arizona woman to make this year's list. If it ain't one thing, it's another. Prosecutions for possession of cannabis have dropped significantly since the advent of adult use in Arizona. There are dozens rather than thousands of current cases. Some say not concentrating on cannabis crimes has freed up law enforcement's time and resources. Others claim those resources are now going toward a rise in fentanyl-related crimes. Last but not least, Arizona is the first state with a DEA-approved clinical study on psilocybin mushrooms. The Scottsdale Research Institute scored a $2.75 million grant to lead the first ever government-funded study on the effects of medicinal mushrooms for people with life-threatening illnesses. SRI will grow its own mushrooms, which will be administered to 24 patients over a 4 to 6 month period. That's this week's Arizona Cannabis Report. I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting reporting for Weed Talk News. I'll send you straight over to Marianne Cursetjee, who has news on arrests and media appearances in Oregon this week.
I'm Marianne from Alibi with this week's Oregon Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. This week, Oregon authorities have arrested 2 men in connection with an illegal grow operation in Redmond, Oregon. The regulated market continues to be fraught with challenges, and it's no surprise that the illicit market continues to thrive. Next, Oregon attorney Amy Margolis was featured this week on PBS's All Things Considered and shared her thoughts about the proposed rescheduling of cannabis. She highlighted the concerns of the market that pharmaceutical companies might want to capitalize on the new opportunities. She views rescheduling instead of descheduling as a remnant of the drug war and outdated perspectives on cannabis being a hard drug. Next, the 2024 Farm Bill amendment, changing the definition of hemp, continues to make waves in the industry. Seed companies are concerned because this could dramatically change their ability to ship products. Intoxicating hemp products would also be disallowed with this amendment. It's uncertain what form the final bill will take and whether or not it will be passed this year. And finally, there were 3 main benefits of cannabis legalization: clean, tested product, reduced access to minors, and reducing cash flow going to illicit operations. Sadly, all 3 of these tenets are being challenged by the haphazard regulations and complicated framework of the regulated market. That's the Oregon Cannabis Report for this week. I'm Marianne with Alibi for Weed Talk News.
That will do it for the A block of Weed Talk News. I'll be back, and Karen Black as well, with the rest of the Weed Talk News for this past week, including a story about Massachusetts, where the ABC, the Alcohol Beverage Commission, has shut down any sale of infused Delta 8, Delta 9 products in liquor and package stores in the Commonwealth. So don't go away. The B block is next.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Welcome back to Weed Talk News. I'm PCM founder Jimmy Young, and again, Alaina Pinto will be back next week. As we mentioned in the A block, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has issued a cease and desist letter to all licensed liquor stores, package, and convenience stores to remove THC-infused products from their shelves. Delta 8 is banned in the Bay State, and many of these products are untested for sale in unlicensed businesses. The Alcohol and Beverage Division of the Bay State sent a letter out stating, "Please be advised that it is unlawful to manufacture and or sell food or beverages containing hemp-derived CBD and or THC. This applies to alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. These products must be taken off the shelf immediately. Any licensee found in violation of importing, manufacturing, transporting, selling, and or possessing on its licensed premises food and or beverages containing hemp-derived CBD and or could face potential suspension or revocation of its license." Now, in the same week of this announcement, one of the oldest and famous Chinese restaurants in Massachusetts, the Kowloon in Saugus, a town just north of Boston, has teamed up with the multi-state operator Air Wellness to introduce a licensed legal THC-infused Mai Tai beverage that was launched at Air Wellness's Watertown location over this weekend. Uninfused samples were given out in the parking lot outside of the dispensary, along with the Kowloon food truck that was giving away classic poo-poo platter items like crab rangoon, lo mein, and spring rolls. The infused 5 milligram THC Mai Tai were for sale inside the dispensary.
In California, average THC potency decreased by 7% in the first 3 months of 2024 after there was a change in state law governing how labs test for THC, according to SFGate. And speaking of the Golden State, there's a surprising twist in law enforcement's stance on cannabis there. According to a recent report, a growing number of California cops are voicing their support for the legal cannabis industry. This shift in attitude is a far cry from the days of harsh crackdowns and zero tolerance policies. It seems that many officers now recognize the potential benefits of a legal cannabis market, both in terms of public safety and economic opportunities. And speaking of law enforcement, the California Senate has approved a bill that would remove employment protections for certain law enforcement jobs when it comes to cannabis use. This move aims to align the state's policies with the federal government's stance, and we all know what that is. While the bill has sparked debates around personal freedoms and workplace safety, it highlights the ongoing tensions between state and federal cannabis laws. Shifting gears, the environmental impact of illicit cannabis farms is making headlines. A recent article in the Guardian paints a grim picture of the ecological damage caused by illegal operations in California's wilderness areas. From water diversion to toxic pesticide use, these farms have left once thriving ecosystems barren and devoid of wildlife. It's a sobering reminder of the importance of responsible and sustainable cultivation practices. Last but not least, the cannabis industry in California is undergoing a major consolidation. As reported by the Times-Herald, big players are gobbling up smaller businesses, changing the face of the state's cannabis landscape. While this trend may bring economies of scale and streamlined operations, concerns have been raised about the potential loss of diversity and innovation that smaller craft producers bring to the table. There's always something going on in the Silver State, and our Nevada correspondent, Tina Tasaka, is here with the rundown in the 702.
I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies, and this is the Nevada Report for Weed Talk News. As the marijuana industry continues to thrive and expand in Nevada, there's a new effort to train the workforce, and getting into that effort is UNR. The University of Nevada, Reno will now be the first college in Nevada to offer cannabis education. As one of the fastest growing sectors in America, the cannabis industry has a critical need for workers trained specifically in the areas of cultivation, production, and sale of cannabis products. Max Simon, CEO of Green Flower, has partnered with UNR and other college campuses across the country to offer cannabis curriculum to help educate the emerging cannabis workforce. Students can learn anything from cannabis healthcare, horticulture, compliance, and business development. In Nevada alone, there are 13,000 employees in the cannabis workforce. Classes will be starting this June, and after just 6 months, the certification will be earned. Courses are also available at UNLV through continuing education, and they are beginning this summer. Well, this could be very helpful for anyone looking to explore and expand into the cannabis market in the Silver State, Nevada, that is. On May 30th, the Cannabis Compliance Board, CCB, said it will issue one license for cultivation and one for production in White Pine County. It's only the second time in the agency's history that it's conducted a cannabis establishment licensing round, a spokesperson said. The application period will last 10 days. July 15th through the 26th, and it can be completed and submitted online. Visit the CCB website to learn more. Per the CCB website, Nevada currently has 140 cultivation facilities and 103 production facilities for recreational cannabis, along with 138 cultivation and 103 production licenses that are both medical and adult use establishments. Well, that's it for the 702. Please continue to follow Pro Cannabis Media for more on the 2024 Farm Bill update pertaining to the massive hemp industry. I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies and Weed Talk News.
Meanwhile, in New York City this week, law enforcement continued to crack down on the illicit market in that city with its thousands of storefronts, and over 200 illegal smoke shops have been sealed as part of the Operation Padlock to Protect. That is still, of course, less than 10% of the total illegal storefronts in the Big Apple. Police in Brooklyn raided a warehouse last week where millions of dollars worth of cannabis products were discovered that were going to be delivered to many of those illegal stores. Gummies, pre-rolls, flour, and vapes were all confiscated. Many of these products had colorful labeling and packaging designed to attract young people under the age of 21. And it is one of the most glaring developments in the industry that has led the movement to redefine hemp products that use Delta 8 and THCA. That is slowly being banned in other locations.
Here with cannabis news from the great state of Texas is our correspondent, Lisa Williams.
I'm Lisa Williams with the Toke Agency, bringing you the Texas Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. We got some high-flying news from Lockhart, where local activists are taking significant steps towards marijuana decriminalization. Let's dive in. That's right, folks. In a move that could make this small Texas town a lot more mellow, activists in Lockhart are turning over 900 signatures to get marijuana decriminalization on the ballot this November. That's double the number needed. Talk about going above and beyond. Elle Cross, who is the campaign manager for Mano Amiga's Lockhart campaign, was all smiles at the press conference, handing in those signatures to the city's secretary office. If approved, this measure would prevent Lockhart police from making arrests or issuing citations for Class A or B misdemeanors of marijuana possession. Essentially, you've got a little green and it's no longer a big deal. Lockhart Commissioner Darrell Thomas highlighted the potential benefits of this proposal, saying it's a small step on a better path for the community. He pointed out the racial disparities in cannabis criminalization and suggested that law enforcement resources could be better used on more serious crimes. Seems like common sense. Why chase the small fry when there are bigger fish to catch? Now, Governor Greg Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton aren't exactly lighting up in celebration. Abbott warned again that the chaos of cities starting to pick their own laws, while Paxton has been busy suing cities that dare to decriminalize. Apparently, he thinks these activists are creating anarchy through the vote, and the voters might call it, voters might call it democracy. Despite the legal pushback, the green wave is still rolling in Texas. In addition to Lockhart, activists are also collecting signatures in Dallas for a similar measure. Previously, cities like Austin, Denton, and Killeen have made moves to reduce penalties for possession of marijuana, focusing instead on more pressing public safety concerns. So while the state government might be puffing out smoke, the local grassroots efforts are blazing a trail. Stay tuned, because November, Lockhart might just join the growing list of Texas towns where the grass is a little greener and the air is a lot calmer. Sounds like Lockhart is ready to light up the ballot box this November. I'm Lisa Williams with the Toke Agency, bringing you the Texas Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News.
Recreational cannabis sales in New Jersey increased 38% in the first quarter of 2024. New Jersey's recreational cannabis market sales for the first quarter of 2024 totaled more than $201 million, a 38% increase compared to the same period last year. With more news from New Jersey, here's Jill Goldsberry.
Hey guys, what's going on? Jill here with the New Jersey Area Report, and here's what's happening. The CWCB Expo is back this week at the Javits Center, and we are looking forward to a very exciting week featuring some specific networking events from NORML, the Normal Formal, and the Women in Cannabis Brunch that will be happening as well this week. And this marks the beginning of Cannabis Week from June 2nd to June 8th. In other news, Jeff Brown, the current executive director of the CRC, is stepping down to transition to the Department of Health, where he will step into the role of commissioner for the health systems. And who was replacing him? Chris Riggs, current deputy executive director and former chief counsel, will be stepping into the role this month and taking over. Riggs has extensive experience as a civil litigator and administrative law and government affairs, which makes him the perfect person to step into the role. In other news, our state may be the first one to have named a strain after its governor. Prolific Grow House got a visit this week from Governor Murphy and introduced him to his strain called Murphy Sours. So that's very interesting for the industry in general to have that, but it also takes a look at social equity from the governor's standpoint. And after he visited with Prolific Grow House, he mentioned that Prolific Grow House is the perfect example of the perfect model for exactly what we're looking for this industry. And that gives you a little bit of news of what's going on in New Jersey this week. I'm Jill Goldsberry with We Talk News New Jersey and the Jersey Report, and we will see you again very soon.
Don't go anywhere. The C Block is next with the latest in the race to be the 25th adult use legal state to launch, and this one may be the last New England state to adopt a plan. We Talk News coverage continues after this. Coming up on We Talk News this week, WNBA superstar and Olympic champion Brittany Griner gets busted at a Russian airport for carrying hash oil.
Hi everyone, I'm Alaina Pinto, and this is Weed Talk News.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with Big Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report.
I'm Matthew Friedlander, coming to you from the owner's office here at Skagit Organics.
I'm Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters.
My name's Tom. You can find me over at Cannabis Legalization News.
I'm Jill Goldsberry with We Talk News New Jersey, and we are back.
Andrew Behringer here reporting from Washington, D.C.
You're Canadian correspondent with We Talk News, Debi Facey with the Canadian Toke of the Week.
I'm Doug Miller from High on Wall Street with this week's Cannabis Stock Report for Weed Talk News.
It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Now let me tell you my cannabis story. You know, I've had 4 major surgeries in the past 23 years and suffer from osteoarthritis with a variety of metal parts in my body and one on deck. Now, thanks to those chronic pain issues, I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore. So I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weedjits filtration system. What? The Weedgets.com, Weedgets, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product that cools the smoke from everyone's favorite flower. The guy that started this was a pretty good medical device manufacturer, and he created this maze pipe that cools the smoking process from 1300 degrees Fahrenheit upon inflammation down to just 90 degrees when it reaches your mouth. That's right, 1300 down to 90. That's why this maze pipe is amazing. Now, add in the code of PCMTV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weedgets.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the C Block of Weed Talk News. I'm PCM founder Jimmy Young in Massachusetts. You know, as the fight to end cannabis prohibition continues here in the United States, the rest of the world is starting to move in the same direction. Others, like Italy, however, are going in the opposite direction. We'll start in Japan, where for 75 years cannabis has been on the prohibited list, but that is changing now. Kind of. It was in November last year that the prohibition bill in Japan was deemed ready to be reformed. Now a public comment period in that country will begin, going on for the month of June. Sound familiar? Japan already has a vibrant market for CBD, but now they may make an exception to increase THC content to 0.3%. They also are considering becoming the first country in the world to approve adding CBD into foods. This is in stark contrast to Italy, which is now considering banning the use of CBD in all products. A controversial security bill is being debated now in that country that would basically end the fledgling Italian CBD market because it would ban, quote, the import, processing, possession, transfer, distribution, trade, and dispatch delivery, and of course sale to the public for any consumption in any form, even with products with zero THC, unquote. In the UK, a new group has formed that could produce that country's first strategy for cannabinoid research and development. That group, believe it or not, is called the UK Cannabinoid Research and Development Group and will present their strategy to the Parliament in July. So when you look at other countries' laws and regulations about cannabis, you should feel a lot better about the reform movement here in the United States. And then, of course, there is Canada, which is still the first G7 country to legalize the plant medicine. And that's why we have Debi Facey reporting from that country every week.
This is Debi Facey with the Canadian Strain of the Week. So in Canada, what we have found is a research that was done back in 1987 that has now come back to light, which is a viroid by the name of HLVD, and it is a contamination that is post-harvesting. So this is something that actually does attach to the tools, the water, and the seeds, despite how hard or how much the researchers, or sorry to say the LPs, try to actually detain their surfaces and their material and equipment. It's due to the fact that these certain strains by the name of Gelato 33, Motorhead, and Oreos carry this viroid that stunts its growth and also contaminates its surroundings. This is something that in BC, Vancouver, they are doing some research and they have found that this is something that is also harming us here in Canada, but also in the States and Europe. This viroid hasn't necessarily been too delved into, but this is something now that we are finding within some of our strains. And I hope to be able to bring more information to you, especially as we now all become a little bit more closer to that full-fledged legalization. Once again, this is Debi Facey with the Canadian Strains Week. Peace.
I'm Doug Miller from High on Wall Street with this week's Cannabis Stock Report for Weed Talk News. Cannabis technology firm Agrify said it regained compliance with NASDAQ's stock listing rules after converting $13.8 million of debt to equity. Two entities linked to CEO Raymond Chang, CP Acquisitions, and GIC Acquisition completed the conversion on May 22nd. Let's see how this affects the stock chart. It's trading around 29 cents and it appears to be pulling back some. I'll be keeping an eye on it because I'm interested to see if it can get moving in the right direction to maintain this compliance. And that's this week's Cannabis Stock Report. Reporting for Weed Talk News, I'm Doug Miller.
Ever since Ohio became the 24th state in the nation to legalize adult use of cannabis, it's just been a matter of time before half of the 50 states in the country will legalize an adult use market for cannabis. Which state will that be, you ask? Well, political leaders in Pennsylvania make a lot of noise about legalization, but not much else happens in that state. Since earlier in the year, Hawaii made some progress in their legislature initiative, but tabled it after considering the costs of rebuilding after those devastating fires last year. Now, call me crazy, but maybe they should think about using industrial hemp when they rebuild and fund it through, I don't know, a new legal adult use market. Amazingly, it now seems like it could be the live free or die state of New Hampshire that could be the 25th state. That is the only state in New England that does not have a legal market for adult use, but only a small medicinal program. Tim Egan is a former representative in the House of Representatives in New Hampshire, and he's been explaining how politics works in that state. He's also been spearheading the movement for a legal adult use market. Now, along with Darrell Eames, they head up the New Hampshire Cannabis Association. Legalization bills have been bouncing back and forth in committees in both the Senate and the House in New Hampshire, and the governor there, Chris Sununu, has urged amendments to the bills in order to pave the way for legal state-run dispensaries in that state. Now, the latest bill is in its final stages. Tim and I talked this week about what's next and how soon it will be before weed is legal in New Hampshire.
You know, Jimmy, for 4.5 years, I've been involved in trying to legalize cannabis. And at the end of the day, that's been it for me, legalization, because legalization and regulation create safety in so many different ways, how it's grown, how people get it, how it's packaged, you know what you're getting, you know who's getting the money from it. And so what I've been doing is beating that drum for the last year with 2 members of the House of Representatives. And the Senate has finally realized, the 9 of the 10 Democrats said, we got to stop sending people to jail for this. That is legal in 24 other states. We have to be able to respect that there's 70% of the, over 70% of the state wants this as a product, recreational. We already have existing medicinal that will roll into this program. And then 5 Republicans who, I'll give one nod to the libertarian mindset of people, like they're following up on live free or die. People should have access to it. People should be able to profit from it. And what happened was sort of this meeting of the minds for the Senate to say, well, we like this bill that came over from the House, but we don't love it. So we're going to reconfigure it a little bit. I called it for a while a bit of a Frankenstein bill, and it is, but it is legalization, a path to legalization. And then, like any good person that understands government and politics, you do, I do, especially around the cannabis world, laws change all the time, federally, state-wise, so you can change the laws. So the logic is, let's see if we can get this bill passed and then worry about fixing it later. But basically, it was a meeting of the minds of libertarian Republicans and Democrats who are focused on social impact, and they passed it. And what was, I think, of the most interesting is New Hampshire, it has to go through 2 committees on either side, law-wise and finance-wise. And when it went through the second committee in the Senate Finance, we were worried that it was more prohibitionist than pro. But one of the leading prohibitionists, the Senate president, who added a lot of these amendments to this bill, actually voted for it. So it came out of Senate Finance back to the Senate floor, ought to pass, which is a great recommendation as opposed to having to undo a recommendation not to pass. Then you have to have a new motion. So here we are. looking at the House having to concur, which means, hey, the bill that we agreed to, we sent you the Senate, you made some changes, we're okay with those changes when it comes back. That's going on right now.
Is there a time frame on this? When are you expecting it to maybe happen?
So I think the committee chair, John Hunt, the chair of Commerce, who oversees this bill, is putting it up for concurrence and sort of taking his chances that, folks who are in favor of legalization in general will say, this is our time in the sun.
One of the most important developments in the new legal cannabis markets around the country is the software programs that track the products from seed to sale. The biggest one in the U.S. is Metric, and that is used in 23 of the 24 legal adult use states. In Michigan, that state recently renewed their annual agreement with Metric, and according to MJ Biz Daily, is now serving 300,000 users and 39,000 licensed cannabis operators. In other cannabis news out of Michigan, sales in the month of April were up by 9% over March, but those sales brought in, believe it or not, 3.5% less cash as prices and profit margins continue to shrink. Still, overall sales in Michigan are up 21% over last year. Missouri sales continue to thrive, and reports that our correspondent there, Brandon Jones, is responsible for that personally has not been proven correct. What is correct, however, is that Brandon Jones and Bailey Hill will be launching a podcast on the PCM network very soon. In the meantime, here's Brandon's report this week from the Show Me State of Missouri.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with B Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report, where we talk news. And half, that might be a little stretch, but yeah, I do like to consume cannabis, and I am known for the never-ending blunt. If you saw me at Mocana Fest this weekend down at the Lakes of the Ozarks, you might have been able to see that happen. But yes, there is lots of things going on here in Missouri, lots of different activities. Like I said, I was out at the Lake of the Ozarks for Mocana Fest 9. So this thing has happened at the Ozarks, where they take over an entire hotel. They have vendors throughout, and you can actually consume throughout the entire hotel, your lobby, the rooms, anywhere you're walking around. And then they take over the pool party. And we were lucky enough to have Dab Stars fly in, and I got to be on stage with them at 420 doing a huge giveaway, about $5,000 worth of merchandise and products to just whoever came to see the event. And then it took over the pool party, which was a blast. Things that are going on, and not such a great thing when we do talk about sales here, are taxes. So the second judge here in the state of Missouri has agreed or to allow the ability for each county to now stack sales tax on top of cannabis sales at dispensaries inside their specific county. So it is a specific county ordinance that is in the law that specific county can either add taxes or not. They have that ability to, and now the judges are going in and giving out decisions. So that's the second judge here in the county now that is allowed for stacking taxes on cannabis sales at the dispensaries. So we already know prices, are what they are, and we always wish they could be less. And now they're finding another way to make the prices a little bit higher at the dispensary. So hopefully that doesn't catch on and keep going at every county, but we understand that, some counties do need a little bit things to go back into the stuff, and hopefully cannabis can help. But again, I'm Brandon Jones with the B Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report. For We Talk News, stay medicated and educated. Have a great week.
As always, cannabis legalization is a hot topic. Here with more on that subject are Thomas Howard and Miggy 420 from Cannabis Legalization News.
That's the thing I don't understand. I want to be clear. I understand why, from an economic purpose, like as an operator, when you look at states like Michigan, Oklahoma, and Oregon, why you wouldn't want that as an operator. But I guess it makes economic sense to me, I guess is what I'm saying. And if I were in your shoes, I would think the same thing. But I guess what I always try to ask people is like, what makes cannabis any different from, and I'm actually kind of stealing a point that you still taught me, because I credit you for radicalizing me. What makes cannabis any different from restaurants? We accept the fact that 80% go out of business in the first 5 years. Why are we so hell-bent on protecting cannabis operators?
Restaurants weren't illegal 5 years ago. So there's that aspect of it. And then there's the aspects of it where you go we protected alcohol as well when it became legal. And it took years and decades for it to open and change its market dynamics. So what's your policy goal here? Is your policy goal to be able to make stable revenues for the state and for the people that have the actual licenses that need to comply with those regulations? Or, so what are you really trying to do with your scheme that you have,
And that's where I feel like legalization diverged. Like I spoke to Representative Carol Ammons, and she said like the grassroots got us here, and really all our problem was ever the rules, the fact that cannabis was illegal, and now that it's legal we have all these different rules, and it's like I didn't ask for all these rules. I have a problem with the rules.
But that's fine. But you're talking about selling a highly regulated drug. Whether like you have a personal relationship with it and you realize that a lot of that's bullshit. 85% of the American people don't realize that's bullshit, and so to them it's a drug, and they know it in a certain way. And so if your policy goal is like changing those things and getting to somewhere where it's going to be normalized, you have to figure out how you're going to regulate it, and it's going to be the most restricted during that interim period before it can get into more of an open but if it's just like owning a brewery, it would be more like owning a brewery or owning a distillery. Distilleries were restricted from ownership for many years.
And finally this week, the Flower Expo Business Trade Show will be taking place in Greenfield, Massachusetts this week. Last year's was a big success with hundreds of vendors and over 80% of the dispensaries in the state exhibiting in the fairgrounds in that western town in the Bay State. This year, it will be even bigger.
So you're going to see pretty much the vast majority of the Massachusetts cannabis industry. The way I like to describe it is it's very business focused. It is B2B, but we also have a great time. It's kind of equal parts, very effective trade show plus just fun festival atmosphere.
That's Wednesday, June 5th and Thursday, June 6th and June 6th. That just happens to be the same day that the NBA finals start with the Boston Celtics and Dallas Mavericks. See, everything always comes back to the sports calendar for this old guy, the old sports guy now turned weed guy. For Karen Black in Arizona and the entire Weed Talk News team, I'm PCM founder Jimmy Young. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. And yes, Alaina Pinto will be back next week.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.